Okay, so there is a warning here, but I don't find it like I guess triggering, but then again, it doesn't affect me because well, yeah. But the reader well, basically for you guys, the listener has a burn scar, kind of like Todoroki's, but probably not the same like the same like reasoning. But yes, there will be a scar. Oh my god, I'm so sorry if you guys hear Discord shit. But anyways, let's get on. It was a certainty that among the to thousands, like hundreds to thousands of applicants who applied to UA every year, there were some who knew each other. And it basically individual that of the students who were accepted, at least a handful would also know each other. That was all basic probability, but 3 students who all knew each other in UA's most difficult to enter course, with only 200 students being accepted a year, all 3 of them would have had to score well high above on the written exams, followed by having a close or steady performance in the hero course exam to accomplish it. Yet, on the first day of class, it didn't seem all too impossible. You had arrived fairly early, nervous to navigate the large, unfamiliar school, yet excited to finally be in the hero course, and made your way to your classroom far before the bell rang. It appeared you weren't alone in your early behavior, as a couple of students were already there, but mostly there were a familiar face. Kachan, you called out. Of course, you already knew the blonde would be in class with you. Despite his responsive, he texted you regularly and was quick to pick up your phone call the day you both received your application videos. He refused to walk with you to class that morning, claiming that you woke up too late. Are you excited to be at UA? I can't wait to see what classes we are like, exclaimed the blonde. He scoffed. It's not going to be anything special, probably. His eyes fluttered a bit red. Liar, you thought. You're just excited as everyone here. Excuse me? Someone loudly cleared their throat to get everyone's attention. You looked towards the classmate to show he'd gotten your attention. He was strikingly blue. His hair, glasses, eyes, even his shoes were blue. You should take your feet off the desk right now, the boy addressed Bakugou instantly. You hardly even noticed the blonde's odd and rather dangerous-looking seating posture. He almost always sat like that, chair practically tipping over and legs on whatever surface wasn't the floor. Huh? Bakugou responded. It's only the first day, and you're already scuffing school property? You servant! The older boy quickly reprimanded Bakugou. Are you kidding me? Your old school put a stick up your ass, or... You attempted to interrupt the rest of whatever Bakugou's insult tyrant might continue on. Kanchan, just take your feet off the desk. It's not a big deal. No way in hell if this guy says it. Bakugou glared at the blue guy. Allow me to start over then. I'm Tenya Ida from Somichi Private Academy. The blue guy, Ida, was quickly cut off by Bakugou. Soji, I think that's how I say it. Sojim, huh? You didn't even bother to stop him this time. It wouldn't do any good. You looked around the room to see if you could find better opportunities just taking your seat. That was until you noticed the door was open and another student was standing, or rather hiding, behind the frame. Izukum. I think that's how you say it. Zukum, I didn't know you were here, you explained at the sight of his recognizable green hair. You should have told me you were coming to UA. We would have talked about it during the break. Sorry, he responded nervously. I didn't think you were interested in knowing. Your conversation, once again, didn't last long as a blue-haired boy came up to interrupt you for the second time just to speak with Midoriya. It's not like I'm even supposed to be here, you thought, as you moved towards your seat, which so happened to be behind Midoriya's. To other students, your formalities were clearly instantly. From the nickname you all called each other, Deku, Izumu, and or Kachan, the last one was one other student latched on to the most. To the interactions you all had, Midoriya being quick to talk to you or be at your side first. Bakugou seemingly to be more civil when holding a conversation with you, or even the fact that he was holding a conversation, or Bakugou's aggressive responses to Midoriya and the other boys' almost planned responses, one of those being more concerned than the others. 1A spot the difference. And one of those big differences was Bakugou. Bakugou wasn't afraid to throw a punch or rather an explosion at whoever he pleased. Except for you. Within the class' first couple base training sessions, he streamed his explosion clear away from you, denying your request to spar, that he happily accepted from other students, and even stopping when he was doing altogether to tell you to move somewhere else. That was further implication during the sports festival. Despite the chaos, Bakugou clearly made a point to not detract explosions at your group during the cavalry battle, while ruthlessly doing so to the others. Ooh. Outside the battle, too, the way he treated you was far from how he interacted with the others. After the USJ incident, Kirishima hardly missed how Bakugou swiftly and almost steadily had moved from being beside Kirishima to wherever you were. Not to mention, there was something about his hands. When he was walking beside you or any individually near you, he made to point to shove his hands into his pockets. So, what's your deal with Lin? Semester midterms were approaching, and Kirishima had managed to warn his way into the only spot for Bakugou's instant study group, with including hours at a local cafe, odd stares by said cafe's employees, and a lot of snacks to the head by whatever materials Bakugou had on hand. Huh? Bakugou glared at him, a glare more menacing than usual. Sorry, that came out wrong. Kirishima quickly tried to correct himself. I mean, before UA, so like how? 'Cause you treat them way differently than Midoriya. We went to school together, shitty hair. Isn't that obvious? Bakugou replied. Well, yeah, but never mind. He quickly shook his head. Don't start a fucking sentence and stop. What the hell were you gonna say? Dropping the subject seemed to make Bakugou more upset. The stack of papers he was being hit with returning to Kirishima's vision threateningly. You gotta get even more mad at me if I explain myself. Just forget about it. Kirishima tried to insist. Finish what you were saying. Bakugou began talking sweats with the stack of papers. Taking swats with the stack of papers. I thought you two were a thing, like together, Kirishima said while desperately avoiding the papers. Huh? Bakugou stopped abruptly before scoffing. No way in hell. Like I said, we just went to school together, and there weren't shitty like Deku. A silence fell between them for a moment. Kirishima didn't miss how oddly calm Bakugou was in responding to that sort of question. Get back to studying. You still can't get the math right. The blonde didn't let it last long before Kirishima's eyes were back on the textbook and practice problems as he attempted to learn the formulas. Kaminari began to note the next interactions at the summer training camp. Attemptly, he had been distracted by his sheer joy of just being allowed to go to the summer camp at first. Then he remembered the training part of the event and lost that joy. It was seriously brutal, with the intense training in the day, cooking his own meals, and all of that followed by lessons with Aizawa late into the night. Actually, it was one of the few first times Class 1A was cooking together that he noticed something new about you. The large amount of scar tissue on your left hand. Hey, Kaminari-kun, can you hand me that towel? you asked. He had been helping you cut vegetables, but he realized later that he was really just washing the vegetables and handing them to you. Of course, he was too sleep deprived to even be allowed to hold a knife. Oh, yeah, sure. He picked up the towel that he was bunched up in the corner and passed it over to you. Thanks. You quickly used it to wipe water and vegetable bits off your hand. A bit dazed, he watched your motions carefully. Hey, when did you get that? He wasn't really thinking when he spoke aloud at the realization of the scar on your hand. It covered a decent portion of your skin on your left hand. Almost covered your thumb to the other side of your hand and spanned from around your knuckle to the bit past your wrist. It discolored our skin a little bit, but mostly created odd stretch and bump-looking patterns on the area. You laughed it off. I've had it for a while. I got it when I was a kid. You handed the towel back to him. How did you get it? Oh, you quiet at that. Just an accident, you know. Yeah, I did dumb things all the time. He didn't notice your change in behavior and went on. I used to think it was cool to try zap electrician shocks because it made my fingers buzz. Then it blew up. He continued on his tirades about his injuries as a kid. He was 15 minutes into his third story before he realized that dinner was basically ready around the two of you. Actually, it was only a couple hours later when the scar came back up a second time. He was a bit more awkward now after having eaten and realizing that he completely left his phone back where they were staying the whole day. So despite knowing that Aizawa would scold him for being late, he went back to it. Who just left weights out here? Kaminari hissed as he nearly kicked them. You need to be more careful. Kaminari heard a voice speaking angrily. It was pretty close. He scanned around for it. Are you talking to me? He wondered. Wait, no. That's just Bakugou. Wait, who's Bakugou talking to? Almost completely forgetting about searching for his phone, he began focused on Bakugou standing with someone by where, if Kaminari wasn't mistaken, he was sleeping. You shouldn't be forgetting this shit either, the blonde mumbled after his first examination. I know. I just forgot how bad it gets every summer. That was your response. Actually, was Kaminari moved his position slightly? He could see you now. Bakugou seemed to have been handing you something, a tube of some kind. He was too far away to realize what it was, but the blonde clearly wasn't happy to be giving it to you. Thanks. I'll try not to forget it this time. He replied. You better not. Bakugou made his casual tisk sound. You need to be putting it on 3 times a day, otherwise it's just going to hurt more, and you won't be able to train. Is that really Bakugou? He wondered. Kaminari moved by the way Bakugou was speaking. He wasn't even talking to the other blonde. Yeah, I'll do that. He seemed far more dismissive of it than Kaminari would be. The electric blonde could barely picture himself bawling his eyes out in this situation. I'll see you in a bit, you waved, making your way towards where Kaminari was. Shit, Kaminari whispered/yelled as he attempted to quickly hide. That would totally ruin Bakugou's mood if he knew Kaminari had been there to witness whatever exchange had just happened. Oh, hey Kaminari-kun. He failed to hide very well as you immediately spotted him. Once he realized the wall he was standing in. Hey, Lin! He poorly attempted to make his crouched hiding position and to pretend as he thought he was tying a shoe. What are you doing here? I was just going to hot springs, he replied. What are you doing here? I thought the extra lessons with Aizawa started 15 minutes ago. 15 minutes? Shit, I gotta go. He sprinted away, almost as fast as Ida, at your comment. Weird. You muttered while heading back to get your stuff for your bed, the tube of oil still in hand. Mina had at the story almost immediately. It was hard to miss one of the 6 students doing the extra lessons, so everyone was quick to notice a blonde missing from the extra lessons. He's coming, Sarah intended. He just said that he's getting his phone. If he's not here in 5 minutes, I'm going to find him. Aizawa had glared at the group. Anger availed. Whew. They managed to stall him for 5 more minutes before the man had enough of it and was out the door. After another 5 minutes later, the electric blonde was being dragged into the room by Aizawa's capture scarf. That's an extra 30 minutes for you all, Aizawa had declared when he released the boy from his capture scarf. Seriously, where were you? Mina hissed as Kaminari took a seat beside her. Okay, I was getting my phone, Kaminari whispered, and I saw Bakugou there with Ian. He seemed like worried. He was giving them something and saying that they needed to be more careful about something. Also, did you know they had a scar on their hand? Kaminari, Aizawa said. Focus. Sorry, Sensei. Kaminari sat up straight and towards the front of the room. For a while, Mina didn't really think about it. There were more important things to worry about with her friend having been attacked. Bakugou himself being kidnapped and being moved in dorms altogether, but she could notice things on her own. Mina knows she's very physically attractive-nated person. She practically drags her body over her friends like a blanket, has many opportunities, and the pink girl is somewhat used to the resentment of her affection. In the past, people called it weird or that you can only do that stuff with your boyfriend, all to which were believed. She strictly tried to change. So, with the dorms, Nina was quick to begin recognizing this behavior in one of her close friends, Bakugou. Bakugou, Momo said she was busy, and you please help me with this homework. She practically pushed her entire body weight onto the blonde, and she wrapped her arms over his shoulders. Kirishima did it all the time. Maybe this was an explanation of the dead weight part? Get off me, he immediately responded while easily lifting the pink girl off him. I won't help you if you do that shit. So you'll help me? She selectively ignored what he said. He scoffed. Come on before I change my mind. Thank you so much, she squealed, pulling him in a proper hug this time. Bakugou didn't return the hug. His hands were awkwardly hovering in the air. I said don't do that shit, Bakugou yelled. Has Bakugou always been this way? She wondered. As she already remembered, Kirishima was almost always hanging around Bakugou in some sort of way, and the blonde didn't usually seem to mind. But for her, he always seemed to blow up about it. It was true for a couple of other friends, too. Hey, Baku bro, Kaminari happily greeted Bakugou. We are gonna do a Mario Kart champion. Want to join? Kaminari, much like Mina did, learned his way onto Bakugou in sort of a side hug. Get the hell off me, you dunce face, Bakugou had yelled first before responding. Most damningly of all was when Mina witnessed Bakugou threatening you the same. Oh. Of all people, Mina assumed you were the baseline of how nice Bakugou could be to people. Yet here she was. Unlike usual, Mina had managed to wake up rather early. She went out of her door almost at the same time as Bakugou, which was a feat on its own. Gachan, wait up, you called out. Mina was still in the middle of putting her shoes on when you brushed past her to catch up with the blonde, who was already at the door. I told you I wasn't waiting around any longer. Despite this statement, he paused until you caught up to him. I said I would be down in a couple seconds. I can't make the elevator go any faster. You took his hand into your own as you responded. Mina couldn't quite hear what Bakugou said in response to the action, but it had to have been something negative as you protested. It's fine, Katsuki. You hadn't done anything wrong since, and I trust you. You two had already made it pretty far away from the dorms, but Mina was sure the next words you said were, "You aren't gonna hurt me," Bakugo and you seemed to continue holding hands until Mina stopped looking at the scene and moved to go gush about it to Kirishima, Kaminari, and Zero. He still seemed to protest it, but he never does that for you, Carrie. So there's something wrong with us? Mina consoled the story. Maybe it has to do with our quirks? Kirishima suggested. Our quirks? Kaminari complained. Wait, is he trying to call us weak? Is he? Sarah continued the line of thought. No, I mean with his explosions. I don't know if it's manly to say this. Kirishima seemed conflicted. Tell us. Mina shook Kirishima by the shoulders as the two others echoed the statements. Well, he said before that my quirk makes him feel uncomfortable, I guess. Those were his words at all. Weren't his words at all, but he said that if his quirk went off, then he'd know I'd be safe. It was super manly when he said it, Kirishima explained. The explanation quickly led to even more disgruntled about the subject. So much for being early. See, it was fine, reassured Bakugo after having reached the school, still hand in hand. Yeah, whatever. Bakugo quickly adopted his tough attitude. You gently attempted to pull your hand away. The blonde usually let go of you first once you actually made it to the UA building. You assumed it had something to do with keeping his bad boy look, as you called it, but you just decided to go along with it. We aren't even in class yet. Bakugo reacted to your action by keeping a firm hold on your hand. You smiled and happily kept your hands together. Hey, how long have you known Bakugou and Midoriya? Sarah asked you one evening. The explosion boy in question had refused to attend your friend's group Wednesday night homework session. You know, now they aren't actually going to do homework, Bakugo told you. I have a sleep schedule to follow. Bakugou was only practically wrong. The group started by doing homework, and you all reminded rather focused, but Kaminari must have encountered work he didn't want to do, and began talking to the group. Soon enough, none of you were working, and instead of talking about whatever topics came up. I can't believe Bakugou and Midoriya got suspended. The topic switched at the mention of the two boys. Yeah, I've been meaning to ask, what was that all about? Kirishima replied. Like, I know they don't like each other, but Bakugou isn't the type to fight people without a reason, I thought. I'm not really sure, he lied. You knew exactly what it was about. He had told you. You wanted to stir the conversation away from any sort of speculations, but it probably had to do with the license exam. He didn't pass, so he was probably upset about it. I guess, Kaminari agreed. Why won't he come to one of us if that's the case? Like, Carrie would probably take whatever blow Bakugou has, and they wouldn't have gotten into trouble for it. His stuff with his Uzukmu goes back for a while. You shrugged. That was when Sarah asked a question. Hey, how long have you known Bakugou and Midoriya? Well, we all went to preschool together, so I guess almost all of our life, you answered. That's like a really long time, Kaminari replied. Oh, do you have any embarrassing stories about Bakugou? Mina was quick to draw that. I think he'd prefer that I don't share those. Although you could already picture several. Come on, he's not even here, Mina insisted. Yeah, but he'll know who told them. You continued to deny Mina's protesting. We'll keep it quiet, both of us. Promise. Zero joined in. No, you won't. Well, tell us something about him. I need to know. He's always been. Mina waved her hands around for a moment as she tried to find her words. You know how he is. Yeah. Was he just same as but tiny? Sarah spoke. Well, kind of. Since he had his quirk, he's always been a bit harsh, I guess. You took a moment to think before you spoke, looking down at your hand and rubbing the scarred skin. The others in the room were were quiet after having noticed the action. They looked between each other for a moment before Kaminari spoke. Hey, I know you don't really want to talk about it when I asked before, but how did you get the scar? Well, you trailed off while repeating your previous hand motion. I know you guys are close to Bakugou, so you'd probably understand, I hope. Izuku, Bakugou, and you had been close for a really long time. You three became quick friends after attending the same preschool, and your parents had become even quicker friends once they met. You three had been released to the park while your parents sat at some park bench and talked to each other about adult things none of you cared to listen to. Izuku, Bakugou, and you had ran off to play your favorite game, Heroes. Somewhere along the way, Bakugou had distracted Midoriya and decided to leave the boy behind while talking with you. Kachan, that was mean. You tried to look behind to see the green-haired boy, but you two were probably far away from him now. He's fine, Bakugou declared. He's always figured out how to get back. Mrs. Inko will probably get upset, though. We should go back. Bakugou had their hand tightly in his own as he pulled you along. As you attempted to pull away, he didn't loosen his grip. No way! We can play better games without him, Bakugou declared. Kachan, let go! You exclaimed. No! He shouted. His other hand sparkled up into the small, angry crackles. Instead of a loud crack boom came from his other hand, which was in yours. That day, both of you found out that Bakugou's quirk was produced by his sweat. Your hands together, having produced a lot of sweat on the hot summer day, were quick to create a dangerously large explosion as it retracted to Bakugou's other small fire explosion. You remembered shrieking as a loud explosion pushed you away from the blonde and onto the grassy ground. And you remembered the horrified expression Bakugou had when he looked at you before quickly rushing to your parents. But you couldn't even feel the third-degree burn that had been made onto your hands as you were rushed to the hospital. He really only just got his quirk, you conceded, your recount of the memory. So we didn't really know about to happen at all. Healing quirks are very helpful too. I'm sure I would have got more than a scar if it went for that. You tried to clear the heavy atmosphere in the air, but you didn't really know. About Bakugou has much better understanding and control over it now. He's spent a lot of time with it. Oh, so is that why he had whatever stuff was at the summer training camp? Kaminari was the first to comment. Uh-huh. Kirishima, Zero, and you all asked in unison. You remember that? Mina asked with a long sigh that. Well, yeah. I've never seen Bakugou being so caring before. Kaminari just defended himself. It also explains what I saw last week. Mina argues. What did you see? You questioned. The two of you were holding hands on your way to school, but Bakugou seemed like weird about it. You were reassuring him? Mina exclaimed. Oh, yeah, you blushed. You could remember having passed Mina one morning, but you had no clue she actually continued watching you in Bakugou. That's how I got the scar, though. I used to explain it, but it made people think he could be dangerous, which isn't true. You attempted to change the topic back to where you started. I get it, Mina replied. I used to accidentally get acid all over everyone. I lost so many cute clothes. Yeah, and if Bakugou were that dangerous, we'd all have so many scars already. Sarah added. Yeah, Kaminari suddenly said. Do you think Bakugou's quirk could be used much like a flamethrower since it can work outside his body? It totally could. We should get him to do it. And Mina could use her acid to make it even more powerful, Kirishima spoke up. Quickly, the conversation developed to speculations about how Bakugou's quirk worked and how all the other quirks could combine together to make the best explosion. You smiled at the admitting stupid conversation, happy that Bakugo and you had found good friends. Hurry up! Bakugo shoved Bakugo around whenever they could, reach to get him towards the couch and away from in front of the screen. A commonstry for Bakugo, he had to make a separate bowl on movie night that he could cover in hot sauce and whatever other spices he combined. As a customary for everyone else in the dorms, they didn't feel like waiting for him, so they introduction of the movie was already in full force as Bakugo returned to the common room and had whatever seat was left for him. Today, you had been lucky enough to get there early and get a couch seat, and of course, you saved a spot for Bakugo. You can't save spots, Kaminari had whined as he refused to be sitting on the carpet. Yes, they can, Bakugo called out from the kitchen. You could feel laughter bubbling up in your stomach at that time. The blonde basically fell into his seat before placing the bowl of popcorn in between the two of you. No, you whispered while pulling the bowl away. Come here. Bakugo looked at you a bit curiously. Of course he looked towards your hand first before considering the option. Although you didn't even need to get your whisper resumption out, he moved closer, his head resting on your chest. As he lazily flummed his arms around your torso, while your hands found their way in his hair. The position was a bit awkward at first, but Cyril kindly gave up his spot on the couch for the two of you to lay out. Is that seriously the end? Kaminari whined as the movie came to a close with the credits fading in. Is there a second one? Uraraka leaned forward. Mina, who was quick to grab the remote, began searching the movie title for any sort of sequel. There isn't! The group groaned in collective annoyance. Of course, they had encountered a key downside to watching an old movie they didn't even research. That's so annoying! Uraraka basically threw herself back into her seat. What now? Look at what's come up as recommendation. Sarah gestured for Mina to do so. Doesn't Bakugo usually say this was a shitty movie by now? Jiro commented, although from her couch position she already saw Bakugo's current circumstance. Huh? Baku, bro? Hiroshima turned towards the couch. You two were behind them. Bakugo was completely asleep on top of you with you, a similar state. Let's pick something quiet, maybe, Midoriya suggested as everyone turned back to the screen.